Hello, and welcome to the Results with Ronnie podcast. I am Ronnie Walker, your master coach of exceptional relationships and sex. And I want to introduce you to episode number 4. And in this one, we're going to answer a question. And that is, men, are you built for the sex you're asking for? I repeat that. Men, are you built for the sex you're asking for? Now, I'll be honest with you, this kind of just evolved into a podcast only because this was something that I was going to cover later down in another series. But since now, at the state of affairs as we are with couples and what we now know as a pandemic, and more couples are staying home and, be they married or not married, they're discovering a lot of things that at one point they didn't have to deal with as much or at all because, they could put it off for another time because of work, because of kids, because of whatever it is the reason. And so now, due to the current situations and conditions, you have many couples home and they are in some form or fashion forced to deal with some of the challenges of the relationship. And one of those is sex. Not to mention, pandemic or not, even in the world of dating and growing together and building a relationship, this is something that has been brought to my attention over and over by the women. And to be honest, now let me say up front, men, please do not take this as any form of attack for you. I say this and I come to you in love, and I ask that the women tune in because, of course, they're the ones who really truly ask that I bring this sooner than later. So I figured, you know what? I am going to go where the crowd wishes me to go. Again, this is for you as well as for me. My goal, and for whatever that I do within the world of relationships, is to add value and to address the needs. And sometimes some needs are more immediate than others. And so I figured, you know what? With all the phone calls, with all the texts, with all the emails that I get from women, they really felt that as a man, I may be in a better position to address this with them. And only because sometimes men can be at a point where they don't want to hear these things from a woman. And you know what? That's fine and that's understandable because obviously there are things that women would rather hear from another woman as opposed to a man. But when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about communication and effective communication, we really want to get to a point where we know that we could communicate to someone that we love and care for in a fashion without making them feel less than. So if we're to sum this up as to why, well, let me give you a few pointers. One, gentlemen, the woman in your life does not want to throw the relationship on this one part. Now, there are those who may feel that sex is not that important a part of the relationship. However, overwhelmingly, for the couples that I've coached and worked with, and even friends and family, when you're just, heck, you could be at a cookout or wherever conversation may ensue, when you're talking about relationships, sex 9.5 or 9.9 always comes up. And I would not be telling you the truth if I were to tell you that in all conversations it was positive. But one of the things that has been pretty consistent at some time or another is women voicing how to communicate their significant other about the sex. It's not as good as it used to be, or it wasn't that great to begin with and they were hoping that over time it would improve, or others, it's just never been good, and no matter how they try to communicate it to them so that they can improve upon that, the gentleman does not want to hear that. So men, again, take some time to sit down with your significant other and really have this conversation. It's again, the relationship you say may be your own. Here's the other reason. They do believe help is available. And you know what? There is. I do enjoy seeing an increased level of communication being put out, be it on the different social media platforms, about men addressing the challenges, be it health, mentally, physically, emotionally. I'm really happy to see an increase in that, because this was something that a lot of men will tell you they were not raised or conditioned to speak that much on, for a number of reasons. Another reason for this podcast, gentlemen, she cares for you. She loves you. I truly believe all of this comes from a place of love for you and the relationship, as well as for them. Some of them, as another reason, are tired of a selfish attitude. And before it gets to the point where it's really nuclear and they're about to just walk out of everything, they really want someone to address it. And usually at this time, they've tried different ways to address it with you, and the men, for whatever reason, is not hearing it. The other reason, men, I want us to take ownership. Again, I'm a man, and a lot of the issues that some of you are suffering, who's to say that tomorrow I may not have the same situation? Now, again, I'm coming from a space of experience, because I'm not going to ask you to do something that I myself haven't done. So I want all of us, as men, as fathers, as lovers, as husbands, providers, we want to make sure that we're the best that we can be for the person we love and care for, and knowing that they love and care for us as well. Another part is, which should go without saying, it's part of having an exceptional relationship. Again, you want to make sure that you're hitting on all cylinders. So be it emotional, be it spiritual, be it physical, be it mental. We want to make sure, from the intimacy level, and of course the sex, we want to make sure we're doing everything we can within our power to be there for that person, because again, we're in it for the lifetime. You're in it for the lifetime. You want to be able to share these stories, and not just at home, but if you want to travel. You want to make sure you're a full functioning man. So again, this is yet a reason why I decided to have this podcast, because again, this is something that, again, the women are crying out in quiet desperation, and there are some times when the brothers will reach out to me as well, because maybe amongst the gentlemen that they have or spend time with, they can have these kind of conversations. But you know what I've found out as a man, that you'd be surprised of how many other men are aware of that, and sometimes they really feel bad of coming up short for the person in their life to become better. But what happens is that you can't solve a problem that you're not willing to acknowledge. And that's for anything in life. And I want you to get to a point where you are being able to communicate that with yourself and being honest and looking that person in the mirror that you see every day and acknowledging that this is an area you need to address, and also feel secure enough with the person you're spending your time with to be able to share that with her. And you'd be surprised. I cannot tell you enough of how many times I've been in a coaching session with couples, and he found out that, she knew that something was wrong, but again, the fear of her making him feel less than, and the fear of him expressing to her because he didn't want her to feel that way, because he was doing such a wonderful job in any other areas of the relationship, that now they've come to this new epiphany. And really, it's a beautiful thing to see that now, not just him, but along with her, they can go address the situation. Now, mind you, men, if you're asking for this, again, are you built for it? And you have to be honest about this. You have to be honest. And I guess part of this, if you listen to enough people, read enough of the articles and studies, we're pretty much in, what some people call a porn culture. Pornography plays a big part of this, and let's face it, pornography was, I guess, boxes of shoe boxes of magazines in the garage or in the dad's side of the closet where the guys would go and sneak, or you would sneak into the back part of I guess a 7-Eleven or wherever they used to have the magazines, and you would go and you'd peek and you'd see all of this. Now, heck, your cell phone, your laptops, your tablets, desktops, it's everywhere, and you're seeing these men and women do feats of of performance that it's amazing. And if you listen to enough of the documentaries or interviews of some of these actors and actresses, they'll be the first to tell you that, look, for the sake that the typical couple to achieve these kind of feats, I mean, again, this is just like a one-off thing. This is not something that happens on a regular. So now men that have this imprint in their mind that they're now going to go to their significant other and expect her to perform when in fact they themselves are not built for that. But let's just take porn out of it. Just an everyday intimacy that's then leading up into the performance of intercourse, and where the men are coming up short. And there are a number of reasons for that. But again, I want to address this in a way that I do not want my fellow brothers to feel bad about them. I want this to be a point, or this podcast to be something that they can say, you know what, brother, I hear what you're trying to say. I know I've been putting this off for a while. Let me move ahead and address this. Now, whether you decide to have an immediate conversation with her, that's totally up to you. Ladies, I would encourage that if you're listening to this podcast by yourself, I encourage you to listen to it again, download it, hit the subscription button, and at this point, sit down with your man. And this is, again, just a start. If there's something else that you wish me expound upon, I'll definitely do my best to give you some increased value that you feel is going to help you get to this point where he is actually built for the sex that he's requesting. So what is one of the reasons that a man is not able to complete or be built for the sex that he's asking for? Well, usually the number one reason is testosterone. Now, I'm going to share some information with you, but let me say up front, Ronnie Walker is not a doctor. Not by any means. I want to put this disclaimer out there. What I'm sharing with you is information shared to me by a doctor, because this is something that I myself make it a point to do, to get tested with. Every year, every July, Ronnie Walker goes and I get tested for a battery of tests. I want to make sure that I am as healthy as I can be. And especially, if you are someone, again, that is active, you're out there, if you're in the dating world, if you're, again, heck, even if you're married, you want to make sure that, again, that you're as healthy as you can be for yourself, for the activities that you're going, for your profession, business, as well as for your significant other. But testosterone plays a very, very huge part of this. So what is it that you're looking for when you're talking about testosterone? Well, before I get into that, let me make this very, very clear. Men, go get tested. Go get tested. Go to a doctor and see about your testosterone levels. Ladies, strongly encourage your man to go see about his testosterone levels. And so what I've learned is that there are 5 different numbers that you have to look into. One being the testosterone number. And see, a number of things can affect this. One is environment, eating. If you're not feeling well, you have trouble losing weight. Maybe if you're working out and can't gain muscle mass. Believe it or not, men experience hot flashes. It could be a testosterone number. Number 2 is something called a sex hormone binding globulin. So let me repeat that. Your sex hormone binding globulin, otherwise known as SHBG number. And this is important because if your testosterone number is high and your number is over 40, and again, this is going to vary from man to man, chances are they're going to look into that, because what happens is that it tends to render your testosterone useless. And again, this is not something that affects older men. It can affect men in their 20s, 30s as well. And because now the lifestyles of men vary, if they drink a lot, if they smoke weed, if they're drugs, be it recreational or addicted to, a number of things can affect this. But if your SHBG number is over 40, chances are it's affecting your overall testosterone number, and it renders it useless. Also, the number you have what's known as your estrogen. So it also affects that. Now, a lot of people like to think that estrogen is just something that's allocated to women, but no. In this particular test, it's known as, and I want to make sure I pronounce this right, oestradiol. 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 But that's pretty much known as estrogen. And what this does in men, it creates a balance, keeps you from not being as aggressive. You know, it's that nurturing part of the man. And yes, men are very nurturing. I mean, don't let them tell you that that's something that's exclusively geared toward women. No, it's in men as well. And then you have something called the free your free androgen index. Okay, and what this is a number that lets you know how much of your testosterone is free to use by your body. And this is a number that you really want to be high. And then you have prolactin. Now, prolactin is interesting because if you've ever heard the term man boobs, it's because of this number. So let's just say, gentlemen, if you're working out and you're really out there pumping iron and you're doing your sit-ups, you're doing your pull-ups, and you're doing your chest pulls, if you're having trouble with your man boobs, then usually it's going to be because of your prolactin. Now again, I'm not a doctor, but again, this is just things that were communicated to me during my tests. And I want to make sure that this is something that you really, truly explore, because behind all of this, when we talk about relationships and exceptional sex, there is biology and science in all of this. And you don't want to discount it. And it may not sound sexy. This is definitely not the most glamorous part of what I do. But again, this is very, very important, because when you have a couple that is trying to do the best they can in terms of their growth and their vision, and they really truly enjoy sex with each other, the intimacy with each other, you know, you'll find these things that if you have a couple that's been together 10, 15, 20 years, and they were long and strong in the beginning, and then sometime later, they're not as long and strong, and you'll have the woman saying, well, it's me, Ronnie, I go and I get myself checked out, my energy levels, I'm doing my exercising, my stamina level is on, but my poor partner here, he's having trouble keeping up. And I want to know what could be a problem, because as I try to discuss this with him, he kind of puts it off. Now, of course, there are other factors involved sometimes. It could be stress at work. It could be medication that you're taking. It could be some mental things that you have to come to terms with and may need to look and speak to somebody about. Again, I strongly, I cannot say enough that you go seek some professional help for that. You just don't rely on everything that I'm saying here in this podcast. But it's very important that, again, this is something that you really take serious when we're talking about health in the terms of relationship. Because this is something that also, as time goes on and as you grow together, you want to make sure you do everything you can to keep from being a burden on your significant other. And again, sex is something that is so, so important for so many men and for so many women. And you don't want to lose that essence of the relationship. And I know a lot of you listening here are really thinking about this. And I hope in some way, shape, or form that I am providing something that I think you all can benefit from. So if it's some medication that you're taking, if it's some stress on the job, or now that you're working at home, then again, sit down and have the conversation. Sit down and have the conversation and do that. Don't let so many years of happiness and many memories go to the wayside because you're failing to address something that can impact you both in many significant ways. Gentlemen, these ladies are crying out for help, and some of them don't know where to turn. They can't go to the doctor for you. They want you to step up and let them know what they can do to help. And it's amazing because the conversations can go from just anger and they're just, boo-hooing on the phone because they're at their wits' end as to how they can do that, because they really do enjoy that intimacy with you. They really enjoy the sex with you. And again, we're talking about couples, we're not talking about once a month sex. We're talking about couples who, heck now, are at it 2-3 times a day sometimes. They're going on vacation. But what happens if you're going to get on a plane and she's got this incredible bathing suit or this lingerie that she's put together for you, and she's really built up this crescendo of some all-night passion, and then the man cannot perform. It's really, really, really anticlimactic. And you would think it wouldn't ruin a vacation, but for many women it does. And I know for many men, deep down, if you're honest with yourself, it kind of ruins it for you too. Now, if there's something that is extenuating that I have not addressed, then go to your doctor. If it's something that you feel you need to see a therapist, then I encourage you to go see that. But whatever you do, if you're going to set a goal of having a sexual relationship and sex, make sure you are the best you can be for yourself and for her. I cannot say it enough. So, this is going to be a fairly short but to the point podcast on being able to be built for the relationship and the sex that you are asking for. So man, I know you want that to be you. I know you want to be an all-night stamina machine under the covers, on the beach, in the pool, wherever that you're having. I know you want to make sure you wear her ass out. But what we can't do is continue to talk about what we're going to do, and then when it's time to step up and perform, we're falling short. I know that's not what you want to do. And at some point, the excuses have to stop, and then you're going to have to address what needs to be done. And I hope this reaches you before it gets to a point where it's at critical mass, and this poor woman is walking out the door, because yes, gentlemen, there are those women who will not return a phone call. There are those women who will end a relationship, a marriage, over bad sex. There was a time where a lot of women would put up with that, and they'll deal with that year after year after year. However, now we are seeing a change of attitude, because just like men claim that they have options, trust me, gentlemen, women have options. But let one of those options be having a conversation with you, going to see a doctor with you, and so that you deal with all of these challenges in-house. That's the option, and the only option you want her to discover. In fact, I want that to be the only option that you consider, instead of going out to find someone else who's going to put up with your lack of performance. single or married. At some point, you have to stop going from woman to woman, hoping that you can find the one who's going to put up with your 3-minute performance. No. There are solutions out there. I want you to go really take a look inside, but first be honest with yourself that there is a solution that you need to address, a problem that you need to address, and you do have a solution because the solution is out there. And I hope from what I've shared that it will point you in the right direction. Now, for all other past podcasts, you can go to MrRelationshipMan.com. Once again, that's MrRelationshipMan.com. I am happy to announce that my podcast here is international. So we're in the Caribbean, we're in parts of Europe. It's now on several platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Acast, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, Breaker, and Stitcher. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because this is something that you all have come through and far exceeded my expectations. I really did expect this to be big, but really, again, sometimes you really just don't know how big things can be when people see a value in what it is that you're trying to offer them. And again, this is not just for me. This is not some vanity project. This is something that, I hope over time you'll get to understand and get to know me better as I get to know you better. And this is just another platform that's going to help us both grow, help us growth, increase our visions and what we see as ourselves in relationships with ourselves, in relationships with other people, and our intimate relationships with people that we love and care for. So again, you can go to MrRelationshipMan.com and download all the podcasts that I have here, and we have more coming every Friday. Also, if you're interested in consultation or coaching with me, be it single dating mindset, sex coaching, relationship transformation, you can go to resultswithronnie.com, or you can email me at ronnie@resultswithronnie.com. Again, that's ronnie@resultswithronnie.com. Send me an email and tell me what you're interested in, and I can give you some information in terms of booking a consultation and or coaching. And again, I thank you. I want you to have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, an incredible weekend and month and year. We're now pretty much halfway there, and we don't know what tomorrow is, but you know what? Whatever it is, I want you to make it a beautiful one. So again, my name is Ronnie Walker, and I am your Master Coach of Exceptional Relationship and Sex. I thank you all. Have a good day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.